video is proudly sponsored by DigimonCard.io for all your Digimon card, deck building, deck list, card pricing, and discussion needs. Hey everyone, Egman here with another video, and last weekend were the European Digimon Nationals, so we do have the top 16 deck list from that event. The Digimon Facebook page was nice enough to give us their own document as well, so it shows the bracket and also the deck list for what the players ran. Most of them are just the names of the cards though, so on my own deck list and then kind of document myself, which both this one and the official one are in the description, and I have a link to it in mine as well. But I just put the actual listing of the top 16, their archetype, and then also I imported all of their lists into DigimonCard.io. So if you guys just want to click those and see a more visual representation of the decks, I have that for you guys as well. But looking at the archetype breakdown, half of the decks were Gabubond, which is really interesting. And then we do have a mix of Diaboromon, Jesmon, 3 Musketeers, Machinedramon, Commandramon, and Security Control. So I think one of the big factors for Gabubond is, Ice Wall is still at 4 for this event. It is going to be limited to 1 right after this format as soon as we get to BT7. We also have Security Control getting a small hit as well, and Jesmon in a little bit. It's going to survive until BT8 with the Bauhackmon, but that is kind of the thing. So I am really happy to see Gabubond is going to get hit after this anyways, because it is, I'd say, I don't know if it's tier 0, but it's definitely encroaching as probably the best deck in the format. It did end up winning the entire event as well. So we do have that there. We're going to also just look over pretty much one deck from every archetype. I'm going to make an exception for Gabubond because there's kind of 2 small different ways to build it. So we're just going to look through all the decks. But if you guys, once again, just want to see these decks in particular or see different versions of Diaboromon or Gabubond, all these lists will be available in the description below as well. And once again, thank you to the official Digimon page for giving these lists for us to look at. But we're just going to start off with the first place list. So this is Daniel Opiola's first place list. It is Gabubond, and it's pretty much, I would say, kind of the standard hybrid version, and maybe not hybrid version in a sense of the other kind of hybrid version, but maybe more of just the standard, play a bunch of Digivolve on Tamers, and then you just have kind of all these big bodies and stuff. Obviously, the boost that this deck got from EX1 was the new Gabubond, which is nice, especially if you're playing a deck that just has a bunch of kind of nice level 4s to go into. The Inheritable to kind of help you find the piece that you're missing is fantastic because it can find not only Gabubond rookies, but it can find the big Bond of Friendship. Or if you're missing a Mat Tamer, just looking at top 3 helps you out. And even if you don't find something that you really need from there, it just means that you are 3 cards closer to what you're really needing to find, which is nice. Pretty much everything else is pretty standard. I know a lot of people are putting Modoki Betamon in their decks just for kind of that anti-memory gain stuff. That a lot of decks have more access to memory gain now with the memory boost and stuff. Hammer Spark. We also are running the 4 Ice Wall because why would you not? That card's fantastic. Having a preference for strictly Howling Memory Boost, and I do like this, especially if you're running a deck like this with no kind of blockers, being able to have Howling Memory Boost for not only a way to extend your plays, but also be able to have some defense and get you out. I mean, Ice Wall already does a great job at defense, but I think both these make it really tricky for your opponent to kind of go for game a lot of the time. And that's kind of the idea. So this is Daniel's list. And if we look at also, I picked out Aaron's list. And so the kind of difference for this one, as it does go up the entire chain to the Ancient Garurumon. I think this was a popular build when we first got Gabubond, just because there's a synergy between not only itself, but also the Lobomon. That can just cheat into it. And also, if you have enough memory, which isn't too crazy for blue to have, you can go to Ancient Garurumon, swing a couple times, and then you can go into Bond of Friendship on top of it and kind of go from there. So I really think this is maybe a swingier version, but man, it's when it goes off, you just kind of win, which is really, really nice. I do also like the inclusion of Analog Boy in this one as well, because it's not only proccing off the Gabubond, propping by the effect of Matt, but also because this Ancient Garurumon pops itself at the end of turn as well. And this is the combination of being able to hatch another egg. When, for example, if you just push this out, you have Ancient Garurumon, you swing a couple times, and you have Analog Youth. If you just pass 1 memory over, your turn ends, the Ancient Garurumon pops, and then Analog Youth pops itself, or pops its effect off, which means you gain a memory back. You hatch another egg, so you can go into another Gabumon that will kind of push up and gain your memory and draw from your Mat Tamer. But it's just so easy to pass one in this deck, especially when you have Ice Wall at 4. It's just super duper easy. This deck's not even running Hammer Sparks because it doesn't need it. And if that's not kind of showing how good it is, I don't know what else. So I like this build as well. And there's obviously 6 other builds of Gabubond, including a Pepsi one, like which is the blue with a little bit of red, so you can add like the good red option cards to get a lot of damage on it. But I'll let you guys look at yours, look at those yourselves. But those are the ones I wanted to kind of highlight from this. Next up, with 3 spots in the top 16, we do have Diaboromon. And honestly, from the entire classic collection, Diaboromon probably got some of the most support. As an archetype in general, it has a whole new line and just a lot of new cards at each slot to kind of go into if you want to. So probably, leading up to the big boy, this is just a fantastic card. Not only does it have a great security effect on top of being just an 11k you want in security anyways, but also the fact that if you do go into it, you get blockers on all of your tokens, which is fantastic. It just kind of helps one of the weaknesses the deck I feel had kind of coming up to this, where you could put a wide board and you can do a lot of damage and honestly be like one turn away from winning, but then you wouldn't have any defensive capabilities to kind of get you there, or just have a hard time with it. So I think this Diaboromon is fantastic for doing that, and it's just kind of a good both offensive and defensive card to get you to where you need to go. And then there's also just a couple of interesting cards too. We do have like the new Infirmon. This is fantastic, being able to kind of stun your opponent from going up to a level 6, and you can kind of beat the race with them as well. The kind of promo Kurisarimon that has Decoy, which is kind of nice. The final Zubagon punch is great too, especially since this Karamon is good at giving extra DP to your Diaboromons, so it's very easy to get to 16k. Also, it's not restricted to black Digimon. It just gives one of them plus 3k, and then if it has 16k or more, you get the effect off. So I think this is great. And then you get security attack +1, you get reboot, and you get blocker too. So it's going to live, it's going to have defense capabilities too, and I think it's a great tech choice. So that is kind of the archetype in general. I think a lot of people are going to be playing this again in North America and Oceania. I think it has a lot of kind of reach for it, and I'm really excited to see it. So next up we have Emko's, I believe is how you pronounce it, Jesmon, and something else. So Emko was the person who went undefeated in day 1 of this tournament. Additionally, placed 3rd day 2, which means he only lost 1 match in the entire weekend, which is amazing. I think first place, I think Daniel is also has that title, but man, that's just fantastic being able to go, over, I don't even know how many matches they played, probably close to 15 in a weekend, and be able to just get only 1 loss. That's incredibly consistent with the list. So playing Jesmon here, there's some interesting choices for ratios as well. So Machinedramon and the new Biomon, so this just has an inheritable of once per turn when the Digimon attacks a player, you get to draw 1, which is kind of nice. Being able to use Guillimon to go into your big boy if you want to, but it doesn't look like that's actually what's going on here. It's just going for the inheritable of when an opponent's Digimon is deleted, you get to draw 1, so I can see that being important. 1 Agunimon, so not a lot of ways to go on top of that tie, but there are 3 ties though, which is kind of a lot. I know CC2, but I know just a lot of 1-ofs. We do have 3 Sistermons, we do have a 1 Blocker Cordramon, we have a Delicate Plan, we have 2 Memory Boost, Gravity Crush, 2 Judgment of the Blade as well, and also 2 Analog Youth, which is really interesting. And something that I hadn't seen other decks, this deck play before, I did see it like immediately before this tournament, is Emergency Program Halt. So card effect main, your opponent can't use option cards until the end of their next turn. This is great for what it is, especially since you're playing a deck that is already playing white with the Sistermon, so it's not too terribly costly to ask for something to let you use this option card, and it can shut down like a whole bunch of decks, including like Security Control. They probably wouldn't know what to do with if you pass over with this card. So I think it's a nice little tech, especially in a deck that's not too crazy to get the requirements for it. And it's interesting to see how just well it did in this tournament. So here is the Jesmon list that, once again, Emko ran. I think we're going to see a good amount of Jesmon in North America, and it's going to really just come down to how consistent it is over turns. So there is that one. Next up, we have Doghound's top 8, 3 Musketeers. This was a really interesting build of it too. Mostly, I don't see anyone run Magna Kidmon. And so this is like the first build that I saw that not only ran it, but just did well when running it too. And the level 5 spots were interesting too. So it's Megadramon and Gigadramon, which can only go on top of Deputymon or Mechinori, but just the fact that both these can go here, and then you can go into either Magna Kid or Gundramon, which are the ones that you really want your Digivolving effects off anyways, I think is a nice tech. I saw a lot of people kind of run instead the Rebellumon because it kind of has the same thing. You can go on top of purples and blacks, and then it is purple black, so you can go on top of with Gundramon. But it's really interesting to see like Magna Kidmon actually run, because a lot of people kind of just say, purple and black is already synergy enough for my deck, and it looks like it still did very well. Other cards I would kind of point out, nothing too crazy. The deck is pretty kind of locked on what your ratios are. You want your Impmons, you want to be able to have some nice level 4s. Being able to have a Ginkomon promote is nice in case you need that no bone to have an extra damage for game. Obviously, 4 Beelstarmons, you have a Millenniummon, an Omnimon, Ultra S, and then also 2 Zord defeats. Kind of people run somewhere between 2 and 4, so I think 2 is probably the minimum I run, because sometimes they can be just stuck in hand and we have a hard time going with them. So I do like that idea, and that is this list. So I haven't seen 3 Musketeers do amazing. I know it was really great at the beginning of BT7 BT6, but when we got the starter decks and all the kind of support for other decks with that, this kind of fell to the wayside. But it is nice to see one get in the top 16. Next up, we do have Alessandro's Machinedramon. So this is a pretty much brand new archetype that dropped out of EX1. So really exciting to see it top in the event as well. More or less the idea of it just kind of goes around this big Machinedramon. Has an on play, you place up place up to 5 level 5 red and or black cards as cyborgs in their trait with different card numbers from your hand and or trash into the sources to gain memory for each card placed. So pretty much you can eventually hardcast it for 7. And then all turns this Digimon's DP can't be reduced. In all turns when this Digimon would be deleted, you may trash 2 level 5 Digimon cards in this Digimon's evolution sources to prevent this from being deleted. And more or less, you just kind of make a really kind of obnoxious blocker deck, and then you're able to just get some effects off to kind of get for game. Like you get reboot, you get block, you get security attack +1. Just make some really just awkward cards and kind of go from there. I like the Gundramon at 1-2, and then also an Omnimon Zord, which can be nice to play some. You have a bunch of level 5s out, so you can play them for free. And then you also get the Machinedramon back into your hand, so you can just Digivolve on top of one of those again. I think that's really nice, and I don't know. It's a really interesting deck for what it is. It's something that I haven't had a good time of making a consistent version of it, and so maybe this would be a one that I'm going to test out, see if I like it or not. But there's definitely a lot of cards printed for the archetype, and it's just the fact that your level 5s have to be so kind of out of normal ratios for this deck to get really good that I'm kind of interested in seeing just what it's all about. So there is this list, and now we've got Nog I believe that's how you pronounce it, with his Commandramon list. So I'd say Black has had a hard time getting a lot of consistency in these tournaments, but seeing Diaboromon, seeing Machinedramon, and also Commandramon is really neat. Just because once again they've had a hard time getting consistent results, I've found. But just kind of has a lot of generic support for the color, especially with EX1. Mostly just with this Hagarimon though, and then also the being obnoxious with these, security Digimon as well. You have 6 off of them here. You have Ogremon that you can just play. And I think something that's good about this Ogremon and also the Hagarimon is that these put Commandramons into your drop area. So if you need to play your Darkdramon, it just makes it a little bit easier to do that. And the only thing I don't like about Darkdramon right now is a lot of people are playing like the Betamons and stuff, where this doesn't reduce its play cost. Rather, if you play this, you gain 2 memory back for everything you played. So if you play this against something that has like a Gazimon or that Betamon, you just pass 13 over. You can't actually play it when those exist. So you don't have a lot of removal for those cards too from this deck too, and so I can see that being kind of contentious for this list. But when it goes off, it's very, very strong. And these Commandramons are very obnoxious for what they are and just have a lot of power, especially because, Dracomon also lets you search them. And like Greymon can be like, I think this is like one of the only ways, Ogremon and Greymon are like the only ways you can get rid of these really annoying like 3-drops. But I don't know. I think this is a fun deck, and I'm happy it got top 16. And then lastly, we've got Andrea Paga's Security Control. And I will say this is a really fun version of Security Control and something that I've been trying to get work pretty much since set 6 come out. It's more of like a Three Musketeer inspired version of Security Control, because you are running Musketeer and you are running a good amount of level 7 cost cards to get it cheaper. You are running like 4 defeats, you're running the Tactical Retreat, and just a bunch of security Digimon. You have this Gabubond, which is probably like one of the best ways to play around a bond deck, just because most bond decks just have like their Gabubond and their raising. They raise it up and then they make their bond card with it, but this just gives it security attack -3. And then when you have all of your, like if you play something up to, you know, eventually go into your big boy, then you just have so much removal for it too. So I like the idea of it. Also, it runs all delete, which is just mad props for this. This card costs 10, but says you may return one Digimon with Omnimon its name to its owner's hand to delete all Digimon and Tamers trash all of the devolution cards of the Digimon you return with this effect. So this just like deletes everything. And if you're playing like against like maybe like a Gabubond list, then you can just like wipe out all of their Tamers and then just lose all the advantage they spent so much of the game kind of making. So I don't know how great this was. I don't know how many times this went off, but it's pretty crazy. And you have to like, it's just you play with Zwart and then you can play it like the next turn if you did something. So very interesting that it got top 16 with this list. This is not a card I think would exist in a top 16 list, but here it is. So, and these are the lists that I am covering today. Once again, if you guys want all of the lists, they're in the description below. And there are obviously a lot more Gabubonds that if you guys want to see the other kind of lists and stuff, they're there. But I think it was a really interesting event. We'll see how the North American and Oceania finishes kind of go. I would expect a lot of Gabubond from there, but it really just is like Gabubond gets like a lot of finishes, and then whatever people are really comfortable with can kind of get there. So the only thing I think, the only color we're really missing is green. And I know green's is kind of like a rough spot. It's pretty much been playing the same way for almost a year now. You just make like a big boy and then kind of gain advantage with that and try to do like an OTK with it. So I'm going to be interested if anyone cracks a better list with it and is able to get top 16 with the green deck in either of those tournaments. But anyways, here are the list. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys got something from it. And that'll be it for me. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.
Damn it.